What I want to talk to you about today is a big problem, and that is anxiety and fear that we have when we try and create change in our lives. But one of the biggest things that we can have, one of the most powerful things that we can have in our own life is to constantly learn about ourselves, because self-knowledge helps us to see more clearly about what it is we feel, think and do. Many entrepreneurs and business people, many creative people, it doesn't matter if you're a writer or a business person, is when we begin a new project, what happens is that we suddenly realize that the mind is capable of creating fantastic ideas and putting them together and making them appear as if they're absolutely doable. And then we realize that it's a brilliant idea, a great idea. So what we do, we go ahead and we start working on it. And the first thing that happens when we work on any project is, of course, we're going into action. We're actually connecting it with the physical world. And that's where we're going from point A and trying to get to point B, so that at least we can have a resting point, but we have work behind us. And the problem is that getting to point B creates problems. That's, something of life that is always there, is that as soon as you begin to do something, as soon as you step outside of your comfort zone, you will encounter problems. It's the nature of life. You will never ever have a life where there's no problems. If you have no problems, you're not doing anything. It's at this point that people feel as if, I didn't expect that to happen, because what we had in our minds, what we had written on paper, what our business plan was, or what our entrepreneurial thoughts were, was perfect when it was in our mind. And so we felt like this is going to work. And it's quite right to think that, because it will, if you just keep going. We discover that, what we're doing is very unique. It's that feeling inside of us that we feel very alone and very lonely on the path towards just to get to the first stage, just to see it materializing in the real world, that we're doing something like we're building a website and we're trying to get that right, and then we're trying to get people to have an interest in the website. We're trying to get traffic in. How are we going to do it? Organic traffic or paid for traffic? All these problems. We tend to spend a lot of time thinking about them and wondering what's best, but each and every way is best. It's just really what fits your way of working, what fits your purpose, and how do you think really that you will get to the first point, the first stage in your project. But this is the reality of life, and you're not going to get anywhere unless you encounter problems and deal with those problems. But every time we overcome a problem, we become stronger inside, but we also build self-knowledge. We learn how we did it, and so the next time it's a little bit easier, or it's not so complicated or not so confusing for us, because we realize that we have this inner strength that tells us that we get over problems. That's how we work, and there will always be problems and we always get over them. It's there that we begin to actually also have to deal with other problems that occur, which are not really objective problems or physical problems in the world of setting up a business, depending on what you're doing. It's more to do with the fact that as soon as problems occur, doubts come up. And those little doubts, they come out of those darkest areas of the mind. You didn't see them coming. They are very, very much imposters, because what they want to do is create the fear and the anxiety in your life to make you do one thing and one thing only: return to the position you were in before, and that is to be content with your lot. You're not going to achieve anything in life if you have nothing or feel as if you could do better, but you have to be content with what you've got. That's really not a very good attitude. When you find yourself encountering problems and you feel those doubts rising up in you, and you start to have that inner dialogue about, am I right here, am I wrong, I don't know. And if you don't know, go back to your plan and look at your goals. That will help you to move forward. When you experience anxiety about a project, if it's a business or if it's some sort of creative project that's going to turn into something big, you experience that anxiety, you can sometimes feel like you're wrong. You're on the wrong track. You're in the wrong room. You're not doing anything that is connected with you. And the reason for that is because it's all very unique. You've actually created an idea which is sort of outside of your normal type of thinking. And that's a good thing, because you're stretching yourself, you're expanding, and when you do that, what happens is you get new ideas, and those new ideas are what you want all of the time. You want to be really looking at the object, the project, the creative process, and you want to see how it's bringing you new ideas. And those new ideas, they're the food that you need in order to grow. Will give you they build that path into the unknown. And it's through these actions, and only through actions and putting things into action, that you really are going to understand what's going on. You can't do it all only in your mind. It won't work like that, and it doesn't. There are, unfortunately, millions of people in the world who have brilliant ideas, and they mull them over, and that mulling over, it turns them into something solid, and it feels like it's solid in the mind, but they never put them into action. But if they were to ask themselves, the question is like, is this an actionable idea? They might discover that it very much is, but it's having the guts to put it into action. And that's where we also find that the fear comes up that we might look like a fool, because when it goes into action, when we do things, when we put ourselves out there, for example, just putting up a website and turning it into something, when you do that, you're putting your offer out there. When you do that, you're actually expressing your idea. And the rest of the world might just see it, probably will. And the thing is that there's a feeling that rises up in most of us, and that is, oh my God, loads of strangers are going to see what I'm doing. Lots of people that I don't know will look at it, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people out there know better than me about what I'm doing, and I'm going to realize I've been so foolish. But that's just doubt and fear. It has nothing to do with reality. It's just the mind playing games with you. When we take action, we're actually really showing ourselves, and really deep down in the brain, where we're actually creating a scenario where we're sending this powerful message to ourselves that we're committing ourselves to an idea, that we're going to put a lot of effort into it, and this is a long-term thing. We're going to keep at it, not quit. And that can make a person shake in their boots. And the thing is, you do need to have that courage to overcome it. And courage, persistence, determination. And like I say in other videos, that determination is determining your path, and your path is forwards, and it goes into the unknown, because you're creating something very unique. Hopefully, it's unique, not original, but you've taken something and you've turned it around and done it better. You're creating something and presenting it to the world in a way that the rest of the world might just like it that way. And you've got to put it out there so that people can see it, read it, judge it, they will, and then you start getting your feedback. You'd be surprised that actually most of the feedback you get will probably be great. People will tell you how great your service was, or how much they like the product. But they might say, well, yeah, but I thought it might be like this, but I really liked it. But the thing is that you learn from that. I thought it would be like this, but I really liked it. Is, oh, like what? Tell me about it, or that type of thing. And we can do that on the internet. You may not, at this time, in the pandemic time, not likely to really spend a lot of time working directly face to face with people. And so most of your work's going to be done on the internet. Sit in front of the computer. When we're beginning our projects and we're moving out, and like I say, it's about creativity. You're moving forwards, you're discovering things, and like every creative and like every entrepreneur, that when you're putting things in place and when you're taking the first actions to make things materialize into the world, one of the things that it begins to look like is not something that is coming together. It looks more like a fragmented world, and that makes you feel like you're hopping from one stone to another, and you don't have much control over which stone you should jump onto, and you're not sure if you're going in the right direction. And this can make you feel as if you're a bit lost, and that lost feeling is, once again, very rapidly, it can be a perfect opportunity for that horrible little imposter doubt to come up in your mind, and it will come up in your own voice, and it will start telling you that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this isn't right. It's just that, it's that flight or fight response in the mind. It's always there every day, 24 hours a day. It protects us from pretty dangerous things in life, like, big buses coming down the street, or people trying to sell us something that is dodgy. it's flight or fight is a choice. And so you really are in a position there when the doubts are trying to tell you best thing to do is go home, climb under the covers and don't come out until next week or something. You really want to take the fight path because you've made that decision already. You've already determined what your path is. Follow that path. To make sure that you have times regularly where you sit down alone, close a door, be alone and have a piece of paper and pen, and not just looking at your previous notes, but rather from your brain, really write down again, what's my goal? What am I doing? Where am I going? Why am I doing this? And how do I expect to achieve it? And you need to answer those goals. One of the best ways to do that is to use a journal and write in it every day. I use a journal. I've been writing a journal for several years now. And honestly, it's one of the best things you can do to make sure that you stay on course. But one of the things about it is to be totally, absolutely and completely honest with yourself when you write something down in your journal. And it might be just one paragraph that you write in the morning. And that very first thought of the day normally is one of the most powerful thoughts of the day. Reason? Because it will determine the rest of your day. It's the anchor thought that leads to another thought and another thought. And before you know it, half a day is gone and you've been anchoring off of that very first thought in the morning. But if you sit down in the morning and you write yourself a journal, put in there, I write something like 3 pages, and then one day I'll write sort of half a page. And it's because all I write is what is important to me at that moment. And I can highly recommend using a journal because it's it's something you can look back over several months and you can go through what you've written and you get a trend to your thinking. You get a trend to what is really important to you through journal writing. Writing that journal, thinking deeply about why you're doing something, thinking deeply more and more about how you're going to do something, and especially in your journal you find that you're looking there and you'll see that you're discovering how, because it's got very, very much to do with your character, your personality, what sort of person you are, about what you choose to do in life, what sort of business you want to start. And so through journaling, you're going to discover these things. And it's only when you always have that courage on a daily basis to go into the fray, into the battle, and keep at it and keep doing it again and again, is that you put yourself in the position where you discover things. It gives you feedback. You might need to sit down and read a book or two about it or study it. Or it might be just a little thing where you need to watch some YouTube videos or something similar in order to, basically brush up on an old skill. But that's part of business, entrepreneurship and creative life. It really is about learning new things. That's why it's so wonderful. It's one of those things where you are always creating not only objects outside of yourself to share with the rest of the world, but you're also creating yourself and discovering yourself. It's a path of discovery. Entrepreneurship, creativity, they go together. One of the biggest problems with creative people who are artists is that I believe they don't realize that they're actually some of the best business people that we could ever have in a society. But they have this old traditional value of, I'm an artist and I won't sell out. But unfortunately, we live in a world that is commercial and nobody cares whether you do sell out or not. And I don't understand how you could sell yourself out when you create a life that is very useful to yourself and useful to other people, and you make a profit on it. I think it's a great thing because it's the only choice we have in this world. It's how we survive. Buddy, even the most successful people in the world still deal with doubt, but they've learned to push it away, to get rid of it, not listen to it, and therefore they seldom feel fear. Channeling that energy that comes from mental thinking about doubt, fear, etc., rechanneling it into excitement, into drive, into enthusiasm about your project. And as time goes by, you'll begin to see that you have a control on this. You can only possibly know if your project is going to actually work in the real world if you put it into action, and real action, you do things. And it could be, your website, or it could be building a network outside of the internet and meeting people as much as we possibly can in this